that moment when a raider has used very precise skill to cross the bonus line
and faces this chain of defenders. And the chain is forever moving in different shapes. It's like a beautiful semi-choreographed dance.
Barely touch someone, make just an amazing athletic move to try to tag somebody, and in that instance, he goes from being very precise to being a bull.
All the senses are involved. There's touch, there's sound, there's smell, everything.
And there's poetry in that. There's an art form in that. That amazes you, that fulfills you. That inspires you.
They smack their thigh and they put their hand up. It's like a dance.
I just think that is the coolest thing. That's my favorite moment. Seeing the game change instantly in that moment.
My father had taught me Kabaddi because he did this one film called Ganga Ki Saugand, in which there's a sequence where he plays Kabaddi. I asked Dad, I'm like, what is this Kabaddi? He drew, a line in the garden and he taught me Kabaddi, and we used to play Kabaddi because it was great fun.
It is played every nook and corner of this country, whether it is a village or an urban or a city.
It's part of our experience, because when we would sit around a table, everybody could tell each other that, hey, remember when you played Kabaddi?
The story of Kabaddi in India is, of course, centuries old. Who knows when? And there's so many stories about the origin, and they're all very exciting. And you know how mythology is. Everything's related back to the old days.
I think the early origins of Kabaddi are extracted from, quite typically, Indian mythology. The Mahabharata, some believe. Though a similar sport related to strategy and warfare was probably called Hamama then. It was played as a game that used the natural human instincts involved in attack and defense, and it's believed that Lord Krishna too played it very well, I presume. The main battlefield references are taken from the Chakravyu episode during the war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, where the very young Abhimanyu, son of Arjun, succeeded in breaking through the 7 layers of a complex concentric warrior formation, but was sadly eventually trapped as he didn't quite know how to extricate himself. Kabaddi's 7-a-side structure is believed to be adapted from that background, that story.
And of course, the many other wonderful parts about Kabaddi that, it's a team game. It flows, it ebbs and flows, because the teams start at 7 each.
An individual from each team takes turns to enter the court of the other and attempts to tag or make contact with one or more of the opponents. This is called a raid. A raid is successful when a raider tags an opponent and he or she manages to escape or return to his own side from the grasp of the defenders trying to tackle or restrain him.
Most people who follow Kabaddi probably see its power, its brute, physical nature. But from the first moment that I was reconnected to Kabaddi, I could easily make out that it was much more of a graceful ballet. And it is that grace and poetry in motion that I think eventually hooks people onto the game.
The Berlin Olympics of 1936. American Jesse Owens, if you remember, stunned the world by winning 4 Olympic gold medals in track and field, and India won the Olympic hockey gold for the 3rd consecutive time. For Kabaddi, the Hanuman Vyayam Prasarak Mandal and Amravati-based sports club demonstrated Kabaddi to the world that had gathered at Berlin. But we had to wait for another 14 years for the sport to get organized under the umbrella of the All India Kabaddi Federation, which was formed in 1950 after India became independent in 1947.
In the country of its origin, Kabaddi was still, well, it just hadn't been given its due.
Kabaddi as a game was always around, but it was non-existent for a whole lot of people and had become part of their past. बच्चे में हम जब बच्चे थे हम खेलते थे etc. It had gone into my subconscious.
It was 1990. First time Kabaddi was introduced as a major event, competitive event in the Asian Games.
From 1990 to 2016, we haven't lost even a match in Asian Games. We are the undisputed champions in Kabaddi, and in spite of that, people were not knowing.
Back in 2006, the Doha Asian Games, I was invited by the host broadcasters to offer world feed commentary. I've had the good fortune of commentating on many, many sports over many years, but till then, not Kabaddi. Not only was the action fantastic, and people were flying all over the place, and the stands were absolutely jam-packed. And what was even more remarkable is that not a soul moved, because I suspect they felt if I moved and left my seat, somebody else would occupy it and never get it back. After the Doha Asian Games, I was very clear in my mind that I would offer whatever support the Federation needed from me and whoever else I could muster to take the game forward.
So I first thought that, is he just having me on? What is this? So I said, no, Charu. I mean, do people actually still play it competitively?
As one of our studies said, ये दूध वालों का खेल है. It's a sport of milkmen. Metaphorically, it just summed up the problem of the sport.
To tell somebody I am a Kabaddi coach, we were little bit hesitating because Kabaddi, अरे कबड्डी के लिए कोच भी होता है क्या?
Are people going to want to watch Kabaddi? We're a cricket-loving nation. Who wants to see people playing Kabaddi?
We had been on the lookout for another sport for some time. To us, in a country that screams of heterogeneity, where the average age is about 26 years old, the concept of a one-sport nation just seemed bizarre. So when Kabaddi came up, we were very, very excited about it. It was something that was innate to India. It was something that everyone understood. It was something that was just so fundamentally simple.
Uday, who runs Star, and Nitin, who runs Star Sports, was showing us some clips of an ancient Indian sport that they had plans and ideas to professionalize. And we just couldn't take our eyes off of it. We just thought it was absolutely spectacular that something that had really the spirit of India inside of it, there's no reason why it couldn't be as successful as cricket. And why wouldn't the country want to have two amazingly successful sports that they can claim as their own?
Kabaddi was not a very known commodity. It had a structure, it had an ancient tradition in India, so in that sense there was an argument to be made. But to gamble so much of money on it, to portray it as such a mainstream sport was a big gamble.
It was cautious excitement, because somewhere it seemed to be in everyone's subconscious rather than front, left and center.
If we are going to transform a game so massively, there would not be one single roadblock. You are solving almost a 360 degrees environment. One of the sports we looked at was basketball, which is truly modern, entertaining, indoor spectacle wherever it is played. That's the route we took for Kabaddi.
The NBA is now a massive force in the lives of Americans, but it brought to fore a simple game of tossing a soccer ball into a net, the result of a physical education experiment by a YMCA teacher. The entertainment spectacle is played to an indoor and televised audience in a controlled stadium environment, projected as a battle between two teams and, of course, the individuals within.
There are lots of examples around the world of the right recipe of things coming together to take a sport to the next level. And first and foremost, the sport needs stars. It needs heroes. It needs stories.
We've got boxers, we've got shooters, we've got athletes, we have tennis players. So I said, wow, you know, this is, we're talented lot. Why do these guys not get the same platform? And why does nobody take them seriously?
1990, we had big names, legends like P.T. Usha. Indian hockey team was doing very well that time. Then we had in swimming Khajan Singh Tokas, good boxers we had. And Kabaddi was the only game which gave India the gold.
एशियन गेम में मेडल आ गया तो एक छोटी सी न्यूज़ देते थे कि इंडियन कबड्डी टीम ने एशियन गेम्स में गोल्ड मेडल जीता. वीडियो की तो बहुत दूर की बात है, लाइव तो बहुत कम, शायद मुझे तो लगता नहीं कभी दिखाया होगा. हाईलाइट वगैरह कभी दिखाई हो थोड़ी बहुत पता नहीं.
So 1990, introduction of Kabaddi in Asian Games, first gold medal and the only gold medal for India that year. We also thought that we will get a grand reception at Indira Gandhi Airport. Nobody knew when we came. Nobody was there to receive us.
I vividly remember when Korean Kabaddi Federation secretary was visiting here, Delhi, and our captain came to meet him, and it was somewhere in Khan Market. Nobody could recognize Rakesh. So Mr. Yoon asked, "Hey, Chaturvedi, two-time gold medalist, nobody recognizes him." It went there.
मैं 10 या 11 टूर्नामेंट मेरे इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे है और सभी में गोल्ड मेडल है. जैसे कि एशियन गेम 2010 सबसे बड़ा टूर्नामेंट था मेरे लिए, मेरी लाइफ का वो, उसमें गोल्ड मेडल हमारा. और 2014 एशियन गेम्स में भी गोल्ड मेडल. उसके बाद मुझे अर्जुन अवार्ड भी मिला 2012 में. पर कोई मतलब नहीं, कोई जानता नहीं था, कोई पहचान नहीं था.
One thing that sportsmen crave first and foremost is recognition, and after that they want adulation, and television provides a platform to doing it. Television allows you to build scale to a sport, and what's happened with Kabaddi, I think the transformation of Kabaddi over the past 3 years as a sport but also as a national cultural phenomenon is directly linked to how television has been central to it.
It does have to become an obsession where a fan wants to get to a game or follow a game, whether on television, whether on the digital medium, and talk about the result, talk about the hero's achievement, talk about who was the villain of the game the next day when he or she is in office.
Every evening there's a match, there's an encounter. And how do you build that encounter? You have to give it that kind of stature, that this is an encounter that you should not miss. ये आपके लिए देखना ज़रूरी है.
Because we know that it's very popular in the villages, but it's the big metropolitan cities and the urban crowd that doesn't really understand Kabaddi. So that is your target audience.
ये आज यहाँ पर जो है एक जंग छिड़ने वाली है, और ये जंग जो है वो एक अनूप कुमार हैं और एक मंजीत छिल्लर हैं. And these are two Spartans who are ready to war, and there's a face-off that's going to happen.
If you can get the kids of South Bombay to follow Kabaddi, then that's what you need to do.
We had to begin with our athletes. We had to make them look cool.
They're going to be seen on television, so they have to be presentable. They were all given these haircuts and they were all groomed, and it was suddenly like Pygmalion.
Some players still mention that that was the first time they realized that that Kabaddi was going to change, and that they would have to change for Kabaddi.
लीग के बाद इतना हो गया था कि जहां भी हम जाते थे आदमी आदमी जानता है कि भाई ये राकेश है, ये अनूप है, ये मंजीत छिल्लर है, अजय ठाकुर है. पहचान बन गई, पैसा आ गया, एक थोड़ा हमें भी पता चल गया कि लाइफ होती कैसे, मतलब अच्छे लोगों में बैठ के कैसे बात करते हैं, हमारा लेवल क्या है, वो सब पता चल गया लीग के बाद.
I think we needed to put a spotlight on it. I think what we ended up doing was putting the limelight on it. And it just changed this sport. And I think it just started from there and started snowballing into something which none of us expected.
It is said for a kabaddi player that when he enters the opposition's court, he plots his escape also. It pretty much plays out in his mind that this is the player that I'm going to touch and this is how I'm going to plot my escape. There's high drama every 30 seconds. Every raid is a story and every raid has got its own subplot to it. Like how it is in Indian cinema, it's 1 against 7. Peter, तुम्हारी जेब से मैं चाबी निकाल के दरवाजा खोल के जाऊंगा. The dialogue that Amitabh Bachchan said in Diwar. So that's kind of build-up we have given to the raider. The raider is the quintessential, the hero, right?
And I'm the guy who's trying to attack, or I'm the guy who's trying to defend and, grab his leg. So my body is constantly moving. I'm constantly in the game, if you know what I'm trying to say. It's not a game that I can sit back and just watch.
Physical sport has a certain kind of drama which is inbuilt for television. But Kabaddi needed a little bit of a tweak to be sold like that.
There's a story every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds there could be a new hero. Every 30 seconds there could be a new attack. Every 30 seconds the construct of the game changes. Now that setting, if you give it that kind of setting and if you give it that kind of stake, you give those hooks or pegs to a viewer as to why he should watch it.
It pulls me in. It kind of has that quality. You are involved in the game in every second of it as it goes along. That's what I feel about it.
Once you switch on to Kabaddi, you cannot move away from it. That's the power of the sport, and that power is something that we have captured, we have tried to capture during the coverage also.
I have played Kabaddi with my 77-year-old mother and my 7-year-old daughter. I've played on the beach, in the fields, back in England. For me, Kabaddi will always have a special piece of my heart. Somehow it's connected me to India. There are lots of preconceived ideas about how you cover a cricket or a football. You might think that you must cover Kabaddi in a certain way, whereas what we had is a totally blank piece of paper, and having that freedom and also in some ways ignorance, it helps. Lots of dynamic action, a raid every 30 seconds. The chase becomes the chaser, the attacker becomes the defender very quickly. There are tactics, there's left raiders, there's right raiders, there's teamwork on defence, interesting characters. And I suppose what we're attempting to do is cover it in lots of different ways all at the same time, so that you see from the raider's perspective, the defender's perspective, you can hear it and you're immersed in it. We now have 2 ultra motions, 2 super slow-mo. We have 17 cameras pointing at every game. We are really getting close to the action in what is a small field of play. There's 39 microphones around the pitch, because not only do we want the wonderful atmosphere that we hear around the stadium, but there's also what's going on in the pitch. What are they saying? What's the coach saying? What's the player saying? The cant and the importance of the cant in the game of Kabaddi. When I'm watching these guys play the sport of Kabaddi, I think I wish I was young again. I wish I could be out there playing. It's a wonderful sport. It's got a beautiful combination of aggression and artistry, skills and tactics. It's easy to love.
मैं कमेंटेटर को एक चीज बराबर ब्रीफ करता हूँ, खासतौर से कमेंट्री के पर्सपेक्टिव से, कि अगर पॉसिबल हो सके तो आप पहला तो हमारा काम है फैन बनाना. अगर फैन है, फैन अगर कोच की तरह बात करना शुरू कर दे, किसी भी चौराहे पर, किसी पान की दुकान में, ऑफिस में, कहीं पर भी, समझ लो आपने अपना काम कर दिया. ये आपकी सबसे बड़ी जीत है. ये एक रेड का खेल है. जो एक रेड का खेल से जैसे ही आप मिड लाइन क्रॉस करते हैं, तो जो सामने वाला व्यूअर है, जो देख रहा है, उसके जहन में ये आता है कि अब ये रेडर क्या करेगा वहां जाकर.
Manjeet Chillar is the captain of the Puneri Button, and when he is in charge, it's never going to be easy going.
And every frame from thereon is a story, be it a successful raid or be it a successful tackle.
कमेंट्री यही है कि आप इमोशंस को कैसे फ्लो कर सकते हैं अपने साथ, कैसे जब इमोशन आपके निकलते हैं किस तरह आप सबको अपने साथ लेके चलते हैं.
It's just not about the raider, it's also about the defender. There's a binary play happening during that course of the raid.
तो सडनली एक हीरो के सामने एक दूसरा हीरो खड़ा हो रहा है, तो हम उसके बीच में वो rivalry हम सेट कर देते हैं, इस तरह rivalry बन जाती है.
Every protagonist who's on the field of play has got a role, and every role is something that we want to tell the viewers that is important. Then there's a strategic play. It's a contact sport, but it's not a game जहाँ पे आपने गया किसी को छू के वापस आना. It's not that simple. That is how you build the anticipation for the sport, and you build anticipation for the encounter, you build anticipation for the hero, you build anticipation for someone who is going to challenge that hero. But then after the raid ends, the next raid starts. And between the end of this raid and the start of the next raid, we have to show that there was something which was so fantastic that you should see it again. And that's what the replay does.
Take a look at this. That is staggering stuff.
We have structured it in a way where we ramp up some parts of it and then slow down on the parts which are the awe-inspiring, jaw-dropping kind of action, right? That amplifies the hero's performance on that particular play. Is when that jump, the gravity-defying jump happens. So the 7 seconds that we have between the end of the first raid and the start of the next raid is when we have to build that superlative performance as something that is really out of this world. And that's when the magic happens.
The thigh five, which has become famous, which is whenever they score a point, they smack their thigh and they put their hand up. It's like a dance. What do we need to do when we're happy? We dance.
How do you get the young 18-year-old staying in South Delhi or South Bombay first to sample it and then to accept it and follow it? One way to get them interested was to get them hooked to the kind of classy and glitzy look that the graphics would have. We have been able to create mascots which have now become the team identity. We have given them some character. You'll see a pirate coming in or you'll see a bull raging. We had to ensure that the 18-year-old target audience that we were looking at are also the ones who just stop and notice the graphics and they see the cool things that we were trying to attempt through the graphics and they watch the sport. We created some very unique kind of templates for graphics that people had not seen. I'll give you an example. But Jumbotron is a concept that is prevalent in NBA, and you have those huge jumbo screens, LED screens, where they put a lot of their content for the stadium audiences. We have a Jumbotron, which is in the middle of the stadium. You would see a giant screen. On 4 sides, you have large LED panels. And we put a lot of our graphics and visuals on that Jumbotron. But many people who would come to the stadium would be disappointed to not find that Jumbotron in the stadium because they actually thought that these were LED panels in the stadium. But then we created this Jumbotron out of the graphics. It was not actual, it was a virtual reality graphic that was on air. And we gave a lot of messages out of the Jumbotron, the half-time scores or hero building or rivalry between two teams. For an indoor sport, for something as new as this, we had given something new to look forward to.
The final Banga! Ladies and gentlemen, Patna Pirates versus Mumba, the night of the grand finale. The challengers versus the defending champions. The East versus the West. Sabihari! Sabihari! Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the first finalist of the night, Patna Pirates! The noise in this stadium is deafening. Ale Mumbai Raja! Swagat kariye, defending champions ka, ye hai Mumbai!
You have the top athletes in this field. You have the best coaches. They're going to be playing in the best of what is available or stadiums. We've upgraded from playing on mud to mats and the colors and all that is done. So how do you further upgrade it?
पहले से ही हमारे जिला बिजनौर में 2-3 गांव कबड्डी खेलते हैं, जैसे कि हमारे गांव वहाँ 1-2 गांव और है, जैसे कि रोहित चौधरी है, वो भी दूसरे गांव से है। तो उनके गांव की टीम में, हमारे गांव की टीम में हमेशा कंपटीशन होता था, तो हम देखने के लिए जाते थे। तो हमारा ही मन करता था खेलने के लिए, यार हम भी कबड्डी खेलें अपने गांव की टीम से। तो एक बार ऐसा हुआ कि मैच फंस गया और मैं कबड्डी खेलना चालू किया था उस टाइम। तो मैंने कहा मुझे खिला के देखो आज। तो उस दिन मुझे उन्होंने टीम में एंट्री दी, तो मैंने उस दिन बहुत अच्छा खेला और हमारी टीम उस दिन जीत गई। तो उस दिन से मैं बहुत ज़्यादा कबड्डी खेलने लगा। बचपन में कबड्डी खेलते थे, कोई ट्रेनिंग वोनिंग कुछ नहीं, हम स्टेजिंग वेजिंग कुछ जानते नहीं थे कि ऐसा कुछ करना होता है। बट जो था क्या, वहाँ पे फार्म से खेती करते थे, तो खेती में अपना एक्सरसाइज होती थी कि फावला चलाना, खेत में कुछ करना, तो उसमें अलग ही मेहनत होती रहती थी, मतलब फिजिकल फिट रहते हैं गांव में, इसलिए फिजिकल फिट ज़्यादा रहते हैं।
When we are working with Kabaddi players, we're trying to take them out that traditional thinking of what they believe is right to what is scientifically right.
This is still a sport which is ancient. A lot of the practices have not changed over the years. The scientific approach to the sport hasn't really been incorporated.
If you look at an average professional athlete across any quarter sport anywhere in the world, he's monitoring his nutrition, he's monitoring his training workload, which is off-season, pre-season, in-season and out of season. And if you bring that into Kabaddi, all we're doing is practicing. Cricket as a sport, you can be the most unfit player on earth, right, but still be the most successful cricketer, because it is a skill-dominated sport. It is not a fitness-dominated sport. Kabaddi, you cannot be unfit and play the game of Kabaddi. They are doing a toe touch quicker than it takes you to blink an eye. And the speed at which the foot moves is a direct effect of the amount of fast twitch fibers in his body or the amount of fast twitch training that he's been doing. There was nothing in the game of Kabaddi that suggested focus on its scientific requirements. The league has changed that. Kabaddi training today concentrates on the basics of the game, keeping in mind it's a full body contact sport. For example, acceleration and turning, reaction speed, peripheral vision. And it has helped make raid and defense patterns unpredictable, and all of which is now controlled by a strict regime of diet and exercise.
So here we were with a group of these doctors and scientists and nutritionists trying to make a difference, and these guys, there was huge resistance. They just didn't understand it.
डाइट तो मेरी बहुत तगड़ी, पता नहीं जो मुझे मिल जाए वही खा लेता था। जैसे कि दोपहर में सो रहा हूँ, मुझे भूख लग रही है और घी रखा है, तो एक रोटी ली मैंने, उसको मोड़ी, उसके अंदर घी भरा और ऐसे ही खा गया और सो गया।
I think it was the third or the fourth day where the nutritionist was thrown out, and I mean literally, he was picked up and thrown out because
कहाँ से आ गया यार ये बताने वाला, हम तो कुछ भी गए, हमारी मर्जी।
He was putting he was giving them a diet which these guys didn't even understand.
चने आदमी कितने खा ला भीगे थोड़े से खा लेगा ना इसमें थक जाता है खाते खाते तो बोलते इसको ज्यादा खाओ.
And their whole thing is, why are you trying to fix something that's not broken? And I get that, but if you have to make a difference, then you have to take it to the next level. You have to sit them down, you have to explain it to them that, look, you need to eat high carb food so that you get more energy for your match the next day, and this is why we say it. So it's a process with them.
If I'm speaking about the energy systems predominantly for the game of sport, they're going to be using fuel sources where they're stored in the muscle. A cricketer would need to accelerate over 25 to 30 meters. A kabaddi player needs to accelerate over 2 to 8 meters. So a kabaddi player may not achieve as much acceleration as a cricketer would, but he's definitely generating far more power than a cricketer would over that shorter distance. So he'd have been doing a lot of agility training, a lot of fast speed training, a lot of light shuttle or shuffling work, and that would increase the speed of his toe touch or his ability to do a toe touch.
I could say probably in the first season there were possibly 3 teams which were clear favorites. Third season, 4 to 5 teams that can do it. And I think that is happening because there is a scientific approach being brought into a sport which has anything but that.
Because the sport is moving forward and a new breed of players will come in. Right. A new breed of players who take their health seriously, who are fitter, who are faster, who are stronger, who know how to look after themselves, they will evolve the game.
Kabaddi is one of the few indigenous games in India which has survived. Yet, it was always seen as a rural, rustic sport. It was never seen as a modern sport to begin with.
So the clear focus was that Pro Kabaddi League was going to be a massive discovery of a world-class sport by contemporary India.
It was truly a leap of faith that the makers of the Kabaddi League took a large punt on Kabaddi not as a niche sport, but to create it as a mass pan-Indian sport.
Which would have less to do with the way Kabaddi had been looked upon or engaged with by Indians before. And showcasing of Kabaddi in a totally new avatar. Very essential part of the sportainment package was truly glittering affair. It would be masala, definitely. I mean, the sense of a masala would, let's say, a very heady, spicy affair, would come from the sport itself. Of course, we had to create the right layers of focus on that intrinsic value of the sport. That would come from the slant and detailed work in the surround elements, the look and feel of the stadium itself through its lighting, the field of play and its colors itself. It also came from the way we choreographed the entry of teams. So the sense of celebration we brought to the entire range of surround as well as action elements of the sport itself.
And now, we have a man who gave us films like Sarfarosh, Lagan and Rang De Basanti. The man himself, Amir Khan, who will be reciting the Indian national anthem.
There were 2 or 3 thoughts that were running in my mind. One of them was, I was hoping that I, was able to live up to the expectations that people might have of me in singing the national anthem. And rendering it in a way that connects with people. So one of the thoughts was concern. The second thought that I had was that I feel grateful for having had that opportunity to actually be allowed to step into that arena and lead the players and everyone in the national anthem. Because I really look up to sportsmen. I feel that they give a lot and they sacrifice a lot and they do a lot to achieve what they have and reach where they have reached. And that's not something I take lightly.
Ladies Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are coming to you live from Visakhapatnam. This is day one of Star Sports Pro Kabaddi Season 3.
The sport is in itself vibrant enough and doesn't need a celebrity. That's my opinion.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Amir Khan.
Having said that, I think if there is an effort being made to revive the sport, then I'm happy to pitch in. Something that I would like to see regain its position of importance that it should have.
We were very clear that we wanted to make Kabaddi a very popular sport for urban India and for the young. It had to be enthralling. We had to also make the sport itself aspirational. So it meant that we had to get a lot of people who formed the cultural leadership and cultural icons for young Indians.
Star then came in with everything that was necessary to give us the biggest, best blockbuster of a start that we eventually got.
People watch a game when it's fun to watch a game. And the fact that it's worked for 3 seasons, it means that people are finding the content itself interesting.
I had friends when I used to tell them, oh, I've got a Kabaddi team. They're like, oh, what are you going to do next? Gilli Danda. And it was looked down upon. And those very friends were saying, hey, can you get me tickets? I really want to go see this. So suddenly Kabaddi became cool.
Its spectacular opening success, I think, shocked certainly in the nation or the world of sport, and a quick realization that yes, this is our sport, and it's about time when we see a sophisticated avatar that we take pride in it.
I'll never be able to thank my family and my friends enough for coming out, because I really do believe, and it may be the wrong thing to say, but I really believe it made a huge difference. To see these guys there, you're used to seeing them at cricket. Why are they at Kabaddi? So what's Kabaddi? Hey, let's go check it out. Oh, there's another match tomorrow? I'll see it on television. The attitude and the messaging that went out, thanks to the media carrying all this, was they're cool enough to see it, so should you be. So that's what made it aspirational. People said, okay, this is cool. And from there on end, wherever we went, it was this carnival that the party of Pro Kabaddi League has come into town.
In the days to come, Pro Kabaddi will make Kabaddi uber cool sport of India of the 21st century.
See, I want my child to grow up into a full, complete human being. Irrespective of whether my child is going to become a sportsman or not, I have to understand the importance of sports. And I think that Kabaddi does that very well. You learn to take a defeat. You learn to be graceful in success. Team spirit. My desire to push myself beyond. My commitment. Because all these are the lessons which are actually going to come of use to you in life. Not everyone is going to become a champion in the field they choose or the sport they like. But a lot of them will become better human beings as a result of that.
If we're making a start in season 4, we have 7 games of where women play. And shock and awe once again.
एक्चुअली ये लड़कियाँ ये शिवाजी नगर के बहुत अलग अलग एरिया से आए हैं।
शालिनी नुकमा श्रीवास्तव,
रेशमा अंसारी, मुस्ताक।
मेरा 15 हूँ।
मैं 12th में पढ़ती हूँ। मैं कॉलेज स्टूडेंट हूँ।
एक पापा है, मम्मी है, 2 भाई, 1 बहन।
एक जगह बैठे रहो, काम करो, घर में रहो।
मम्मी बगैर बोलती है 12वीं तक का पढ़ लेना बस। मम्मी ख्वाहिश है चाहे कुछ कर दूँ।
ऐसे एरिया से जहाँ से ये लोग 7th स्टैंडर्ड के बाद पढ़ ही नहीं सकते। जो 16 साल के ऊपर की लड़कियाँ ना, कम से कम 7-8 लड़कियों की ना शादी पक्की हो गई थी।
पहले हम लोग को घर से बाहर निकलने नहीं देते थे, पर मैंने पापा को बोली, पापा मेरा कबड्डी में जीत गई 2 बार, तो मुझे बाहर भी निकलने मिलता है, कबड्डी खेलने मिलता है, बहुत अच्छा लगता है।
मतलब जो चीज मैं अपने भाई पे डिपेंड रहती थी, जैसा कुछ भारी सामान उठाना, तो अब ये है कि मुझे मेरे भाई की जरूरत नहीं, मैं वो खुद कर लेती हूँ।
कबड्डी आप पूछ रहे थे ना, क्यों आज यहाँ पर आके मैं नकाब पहनती हूँ, यहाँ पर आके मैंने नकाब उतारा, सबसे बड़ा यही चेंज।
बच्चे और उनके पेरेंट्स खुद आके बोलते हैं, रास्ते में मिलते हैं, घर पे आते हैं, बोलते हैं कि मैडम प्लीज खत्म मत करो। बच्चे लोग आ रहे हैं, बाहर निकल रहे ना, हम लोग को खुद को अच्छा लग रहा है, आप इनको कंटिन्यू खिलाओ। माँ बाप ने खुद मना किया, हम लोगों ने उनको कन्विंस किया कि इतनी छोटी उम्र में मत शादी कराओ।
और जो आप ये देख रहे हैं ना, लड़के खेल रहे हैं, उसी तरह हम लोग चाहते हैं कि हम लड़कियां खेलें और ऐसे पब्लिक जमा होकर हमें देखें। और हम लोग बस ये चेंज हम लोगों को चाहिए, और जो हम लोगों ने मिल गया, बस हम लोग चाहते हैं कि हमारा जो हमें मिला है वो और भी लड़कियों को मिले।